Welcome to the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast. Tune in every Thursday as we share inspirational stories from the world's greatest creators, entrepreneurs, and go-getters about how they've turned life's lemons into lemonade. And now, here's your host of Lemonade Stand Stories, Charan Prabhakar.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast. I am your host, Charan Prabhakar, and today I am chatting with my dear friend, Michael Flynn. Michael is a prolific actor that has been in the film business since the 80s. He has acted in over 100 movies like Footloose, The Lamb of God, and The Best 2 Years. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Michael for over 15 years now and have worked on a few projects together. Now, unfortunately, we've had a few technical problems at the beginning of this podcast, so we're actually jumping right into where I finished my introduction. Enjoy.
And so one day after school, I was a sophomore in high school, and the drama teacher was out in the hall, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was just walking down the hall. I said, "I don't know, nothing."
Yeah.
He said, "Why don't you come in and try out for a play?" I said, "Well, I've never done that before." He said, "I don't care." All right. And I'm thinking, well, maybe if I get in a play, I don't have to I go home after school. You know, I can
kind of do whatever, right?
I didn't want to go home. So anyway, so I tried out for a play. I got a small part, and I was, 15? And I thought, yeah, I can do this. This works for me.
Yeah.
I get this.
Yeah.
So I went on, high school, did a ton of stuff, college, a ton of stuff, went to a professional theater school type thing on the East Coast. And then, like you, I joined the Mormon Church when I was 17.
Yep, like me.
And just a little over, I was almost 18. And a little over a year on my 19th birthday, the actual day, I left to go to France.
Wow.
But that's how I got started. And when I came back from France, I went to BYU, graduated in theater, which was a lot of fun, didn't help me a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't help with your career, but it's a great, great fun major,
And, but a buddy of mine and I decided, let's go to the Bay Area and start a theater, which is a really stupid idea when you think about it. Because how do you start a theater to make money? I mean, no, it's ridiculous. I was married with 2 kids at the time.
Wow.
So we went to Santa Clara, California, and we started the Santa Clara Arena Theater. And I was working in a bakery during the day, making pies of all lovely things.
Wow.
And I made tens of thousands of pies, literally. I'm not exaggerating.
Okay.
But at night we did our theater.
Huh.
And I did that for 2.5 years, and I moved to Southern California and traveled around the country doing musicals and all that kind of stuff, and then got into film in 1980 when I moved back to Utah.
So it's interesting because you definitely started in theater first. You didn't go into film immediately.
No.
Right?
Well, they didn't have a film program.
There was no film program.
Yeah, I'm an old guy, Jared. So
I don't buy that for a second.
They didn't have film programs at all.
Yeah. And
so I would have studied film because I love film. I love theater.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, you say you traveled all over the place and you were in Southern California doing theater, but you didn't get into film until you came to Utah. Right. So what prompted that move to come to Utah when you were already in Southern California already?
Well, I was traveling around the country doing stuff, and then a friend of mine named Doug Stewart was doing this play called Saturday's Warrior.
Okay.
And so Doug hired me to come to Utah and direct and produce Saturday's Warrior in 1980.
The play?
The play.
Okay.
And so I did, and brought my family back. And by now we had, 5 kids, something like that, 4 or 5 kids. Crazy. I'm a crazy man.
No, I'm so fascinated how you were able to make a living, traveling around doing plays.
I have no idea how we did it.
Yeah.
And my wife, who no longer my wife, but she was very patient, and I was really crazy, dragging her and the kids all over the country. And we went back to Washington, D.C., and we were there for a while because I was from that area. Anyway, all right, I'm just rambling on here. But anyway, I came back here and I was doing this play, Saturday's Warrior, and I thought, I gotta make more money. And film is where money is. And I started to realize, well, they make movies here in Utah. So I got a gig. I went to BYU and said, hey, what's going on? Anyway, there's some movie going on, a short film. I was playing a cop.
Okay.
I played a lot of cops when I was younger. So I'm dressed as a cop, and we wrapped on one particular day, and I had a recording session in Salt Lake that night. I don't remember how I got it. And so I was still in my cop uniform. It was a legitimate Orem City, whatever, Provo City cop thing. I'm driving along the freeway dressed as a cop. And I get to the recording studio, and there's a whole bunch of actors. There was one of those recording studios where they had 2 or 3 mics hanging from the ceiling.
Sure, yeah.
And about 10 actors in the room.
Okay.
And you had your script, and when it was your turn to speak, you kind of went to the closest mic over your head and said your lines. I mean, it was a really weird thing.
That's really weird.
No, it's very strange.
That's not how they do it now.
No,
Yeah.
I think that was the only time I've ever done that.
Yeah.
And he had all the suits behind the big glass window. It was a big, big recording studio. But the guy named Larry Roop was there, and he was an agent.
Okay.
And so he liked what I said or something. I don't know what he liked. I'm dressed as a cop. Scared the heck out of the actors.
Yeah.
I think half of them were probably on drugs. I was there to arrest them.
Yeah.
So anyway, Larry came up and said, "Hey, Michael, so who's your agent in town?" I just got here. I don't have an agent. He says, "Well, you do now." And so he was with McCarty Agency.
Okay.
That was 1980. And so I was with McCarty Agency for 35 years until I switched over to TMG.
Wow.
And that's how I got started. And they sent me out on auditions. And fortunately, I think you probably can resonate with this. And when you sign with an agency and that they send you out, and if you immediately get work for them, they like that.
Absolutely.
I got like the first 5 or 6 things that I read for.
Wow, that's great.
And there was a couple of commercials in there, and then the film Savannah Smiles. I don't even remember the film.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was the first film I ever did. It was about 1980, 81. And really cute, fun little family film. And I read for that. That was the first movie. And got a pretty nice supporting role. And it was kind of weird. Is this okay? Do you want to talk about this kind of stuff?
Yeah, talk. Let's talk.
All right, so I'm in the Savannah Smiles thing, again, playing a cop, motorcycle cop.
Yeah.
And they said, "Do you know how to ride a motorcycle?" Oh, yeah, I know how to ride a motorcycle, which I did, fortunately.
Yeah.
And so I said, I said, all right, so if I'm going to be this motorcycle cop, I have an ulterior motive at this.
Yeah.
I said, I should probably take this, and it's a legitimate Salt Lake City, big Kawasaki, whatever, police motorcycle.
Sure.
I should probably take it for a ride just to make sure.
Just to make sure.
Yeah,
just to make sure it works.
I don't want to embarrass anybody.
Yeah.
I want to look silly.
Yeah.
So I'm tooling around Salt Lake City dressed as a cop on a motorcycle.
This is so great.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. The way people look at you.
100%.
You pull up next to them at the stoplight, kind of look over at them. And
they're terrified.
Is he going to arrest me?
Yeah.
Did
absolutely.
I do something wrong?
This is great. This explains so much, So
then I go back to the set on my first day of shooting, and I show up, and I've got my own dressing room.
Yeah.
And I'm a theater guy.
You're not used to that. Like, this is like a communal thing when you're in theater, right?
Theater, you go to the dressing room, not your dressing room,
right?
With all the other actors and mirrors all over the place. And I got my own dressing room, and they've got my wardrobe hanging up in there. I thought, wow, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so lunch comes along, and I'm thinking, okay, we're going to get a bag from McDonald's for lunch.
Yeah.
No, they blocked off the street. This is up in the avenues in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Blocked off the street, and they got like tables for about 30 feet long. With, as you know, any kind of food you want.
It's fantastic.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, okay, this is my life. This
is it.
Okay, hey,
I've arrived. Yeah.
So I did Savannah Smiles, which is a really cute little family film, and there's a connection there with my current wife. And anyway, if we get into that later, fine. But then the second film I did was Footloose.
Wow. Okay. Wow. That's a huge one.
Yeah, the first Footloose.
Yeah.
1981 with Kevin Bacon, and a couple of stories from Footloose. You want that?
Sure. Let's hear some Footloose stories. Yes.
It's quick, but anyway, it's funny. It was funny. I'm doing a scene with Russ McGinn. He's still an actor in this area all these years later, and Russ is a tall guy. He's like a 6'7", and I'm not 6'7", as you well know.
I mean, slightly shorter than 6'7". Yeah.
And the director, I can't believe I can't remember his name. Very famous director. I'll think of it in a second. Anyway, big time A-list director.
Sure.
Okay. And he keeps getting Russ's name and my name mixed up, calling me Russ, him Michael. He can't get it straight.
Yeah.
Then he started to get it right after a while. After about a half hour, 45 minutes, we're shooting this scene. And then we take a break, and on, the big Panavision cameras with the big rolls on them. Okay.
Yeah.
There's 2 pieces of white tape.
Okay.
On it. And when the one says Russ, tall, Michael, less tall.
That's
So that's how I
amazing.
got my name straight.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it was fun. Kevin Bacon sat down. We're having lunch, and of course he came when he showed up on the set. I was dressed as a cop, playing a cop in the film. And after we'd done, I don't know if we shot a scene or we had some rehearsal or something, I can't remember. And he says, Michael, I'm just really glad you're an actor and not a real cop.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you ever had the experience of being in a film where they actually hired a real person.
Oh, you like to actually play yeah. I don't think that's ever happened to me, but I know what you're talking about.
99% of the time, that does not work.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I say 100%, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, so it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun doing that. And then since then, it was 1981. So
Yeah. Just
a lot of stuff.
a lot of stuff's been happening, you know? Well, it's interesting because, as I've seen your work, I just remember thinking like, you have such presence on screen,
That's very kind of you.
But I mean, it is, and the thing is like you found a voice, and you've been able to create a voice for yourself, and it's like this kind of a voice of confidence or whatever it is. And I know you're an acting teacher as well.
That's true.
So I'd love to know, like, how did you discover your own voice, and how are you able to share that gift and that talent with other people to do the same?
I don't know exactly. I think it really comes down, Sharon, to, and this is what I tell actors all the time. If you have some kind of a gift,
Yeah.
if there's something inside you, it's like I told you when I got cast in that play, and I said, I get this. If you don't get this, if it doesn't make sense on a very visceral gut level, the whole thing, the whole idea, the whole concept of being an actor,
Yeah.
if it's not in you, nobody can put it in you.
Yeah.
There's no pill you can take. I mean, let's say somebody has the driving desire to be a dentist. Well, that's a really wonderful profession.
It's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
And if you have reasonable intelligence, I mean, you're a bright guy, and you're smart, and a lot of people are, you can be a dentist.
Yeah.
You go to dental school and they say, hey, here's a drill, there's a tooth.
Yeah.
And we're going to show you how to combine the two.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know it's more complicated than that, and there's a lot that goes into dentistry.
Absolutely.
But you can learn it,
Yeah.
right? Acting, in my opinion, is different. It's like being an artist, a painter, a singer. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of singers. Let's put it this way. There are a lot of people who can hit the note. They can hit the note spot on.
Spot on.
And they have a voice that sounds really nice. And usually those singers are really boring.
Extremely boring.
Yeah, because,
there's no connection. You don't feel their soul.
Yeah, there's no passion.
There's no passion.
And then there are singers. Liza Minnelli is a good example. I'm sure you're familiar with her. Mm-hmm. I guess you take her voice just as a voice, and you think, well, it's interesting.
Yeah.
The voice itself. But then you add the passion of Liza Minnelli, and it comes alive. And when she sings New York, New York, you just want to scream and shout, stand up and clap and throw flowers at her.
Yeah.
And so when you ask the question, how did I find my voice? I don't know. I think it was just a question of coming to the realization that I get this.
See, I think that's such a beautiful realization to have, that I get this. I think so many people are trying to figure out what their path is supposed to be and where they're supposed to go. And like this podcast is all about helping empower the youth with whatever passions they have. Yeah. But a lot of times people choose paths because logically it makes sense to them.
Sure.
Right. Or it's like, well, yeah, this profession is good because I want to have a family one day and I want to have a stable income and this is going to help.
So don't
with
do
that.
this.
And I'm like, yeah, don't be an actor. Yeah. Don't do what we did, you know? But the thing is that thought process is not a bad thought process, but there are those people that have lived lives like that and have lived lives very unfulfilled.
Yep.
And I see that a lot of times. I see that in people's eyes actually when I'm like walking around.
Yep.
They live life very, very unfulfilled. They're not alive. And then they get old and they look back on their life and they're full of regret.
Yep.
Because they never chose to live. But you, even though you were telling me about like, well, yeah, I was dragging my family through all this stuff, I had like this sense of feeling, even when you're talking to me, like you're just alive. You feel very alive because this is something you get. You discover it. You know that this is exactly what you need to be doing in your life. And I think it's very powerful to do that, but it requires a lot of courage. It requires a lot of courage to do that, especially when it's not something that is financially sustainable or something.
Right.
Like the example you gave of a dentist. Hey, yeah, if you have that drive to be a dentist, yes, go do that because it's going to make good money as well. And you can have, a great career doing so. But for something like acting where it's so up and down, how were you able to like sustain your own career in Utah doing what you've been doing?
Pretty simple answer to that. You just never give up. As soon as you give up, it's over.
Yeah.
You can't give up. On the other hand, don't be stupid about it.
Yeah.
There's a great.
Yeah.
I love the expression. How does it go? Winners never quit.
Yes, I know.
Quitters never win.
Yeah.
But if you never win and you never quit, you're an idiot.
Yes. I love that one. You know what that's from? That's from despair.com. Have you ever seen those? Yeah. They're so great.
Yeah.
They're demotivational posters.
Yeah, demotivational.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a process for me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times when you get pressure to quit.
Absolutely.
I've got 7 kids.
Yeah.
And much less pressure now because they're all grown. They all have
doing their thing,
great jobs,
right?
Families of their own, and
you don't have to support them.
No, they have to support me.
Yeah,
no, I'm kidding. They don't, but they could if they had to, I suppose. Or if they wanted to. I don't know that they would. But, but they're great. My kids are great, and I'm very blessed and fortunate that way. And it has nothing. Trust me, it has nothing to do with me. Their mom was great. Family life was difficult for me as a dad and as a husband. And because sometimes as an artist, sometimes I think, and I know I've dealt with this, you get very selfish because it's such a difficult arena in which to make a living.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's frustrating in that, and I'm sure you've had this experience, that you do a film that's just a stupid movie. I mean, come on. It's just stupid. And sometimes, and I'm sure you've done these films. I've done too many of them where it's not just stupid. It's offensive.
Yes. Yeah. Like not uplifting in the slightest.
No.
You're not doing any good in the world.
No. And you don't want anybody to
watch this film. Yeah.
And you don't want to.
Yes.
I've done a lot of films that I have no desire to ever see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the group of films that, you do want to see. You're curious.
Yeah.
And then there's a smaller group of, well, that was okay. And then there's a smaller group of, I really like that film and I like what I did in it.
Yeah.
And so when you go through that process, and since we're being open about the fact that we're both LDS, returned missionaries, stuff like that, I'm still very active in the LDS Church. And I tell actors who come through my studio, I say, I interview them. In the first session in the studio, I interview all the actors, one-on-one. And I upload everything so they can watch it. And then one of the reasons I do that, you'll appreciate this, is when I'm talking to them and they're just talking to me, they're very natural. They're just talking, having a good time. And then you give them a script and it's all of a sudden.
Frozen, yeah, exactly.
And so I upload the interview because I tell them, hey, that's what we want.
Yes.
I don't want this other crap that you do.
Yeah.
But I also ask them, I say, what's your core? Who are you way down deep? What's your foundation in life?
Yeah.
And it throws them. I'm telling you, it totally throws them.
Wow. That's
and they
crazy.
say, oh, wow, my foundation, my core, who am I really?
Do you find like a lot of them are lost? Our lost souls.
Yeah.
Looking for.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons sometimes people get in, or they want to get into this acting thing, is because they can find themselves there. And that's a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing.
Actually, it's very terrible. Yeah.
And so, but every once in a while, and I've had this happen, maybe a dozen times over the last 10 years, I'll ask somebody, I'll say, so what's your core? What's your foundation? They look at me and they go, Jesus Christ. Bingo.
Yeah.
Because I tell them, and if they ask me, sometimes I say, okay, I'll give you guys a shot at me. And if they ask me that question, that's my answer.
Yeah.
And I tell them, if you don't have some kind of a foundation that will never give up on you, you need to find one. Because this business will kick you to the curb. It will kick the crap out of you.
Absolutely.
Every chance it gets.
Yeah.
This business does not care about you, doesn't like you. There is no dearth of actors. Actors are everywhere. Yeah. We do not need you to be in this business. It's not like you're going to come into this business and fulfill some slot that nobody has ever filled before. No, there are tens of thousands of actors out there.
Yeah.
We don't need you. And so what's your foundation? Because when everything else is gone, your foundation can't be your family, in my opinion. It can't be your spouse, can't be your kids, can't be your work, can't be your acting, can't be any of this. It's got to be something else.
It's got to be something else, absolutely.
And so that really confuses them usually when I say that.
I had a conversation with, do you know who Ernie Lively is? Ernie Lively. Ernie Lively, he's been an actor for a very long time. His daughter's a very famous actress, Blake Lively.
I heard the Blake Lively. Yeah. The Lively name is familiar, but not the dad.
Yeah, so Ernie's her dad, and he's a good friend. He's a good guy. We were having a conversation once about just success and what we think success is and all that stuff. And he was telling me about the story about these guys that had done some massive real estate deal. And they were just on the moon, man. I mean, they were just like living large, and they were so excited about this whole thing. They were sitting in their car. They were driving on the freeway. They were just like so pumped about all this thing. And as they went underneath the underpass, at that exact time, some semi or something lost control, which was on the overpass, and it fell off the freeway and landed on their car, killing them all instantly.
Oh my gosh.
Like instantly, how much our life priority can instantly change like that, right? And so when I think about things like that, I love like that question, who are you at your core? Because if you don't know that, you definitely need to figure that out first before you do anything in life, anything at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I can appreciate actors going and trying to discover themselves or find who they are through maybe acting. But if they don't find that core, then they're going to, like you said, hit massive failure after failure, and they will feel like they are they will internalize that failure as if they themselves are failure, instead of saying, oh, that's just the circumstance. That's not really who I am. You know what I mean?
And you asked a question a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I'd like to readdress, and that is, so how do you keep going?
Yeah.
When it's difficult? And I think part of the answer, at least for me, is I really believe, and this is not, I'm not saying this in any kind of self-serving way, but I believe that God has given everybody gifts.
Yeah.
If you read the scriptures, it's there in black and white, in bold. And I believe we have a responsibility to nurture those gifts. And I believe that we are actually stewards over those gifts. And so that's one of the things that's gotten me through. How do I turn my back on that?
Yeah.
How do I turn my back on a gift that I've been given?
Yeah.
And it's been made clear to me over the years that, yes, I can make a living with it. You know, I'm an actor. I have my studio in Salt Lake. I write, I direct, I produce, all of that under the umbrella, I suppose, of the entertainment field.
Sure.
And there are things I love about the entertainment field, and there are things I hate about the entertainment field.
Yeah.
You know, I get these screeners from Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
And some of the films that are up for awards and this and that. And I'm thinking, this is trash.
Yeah.
This is trash. These are people who are using a God-given gift to do this.
It's actually very interesting you say that. When I go to the like stores and see movies sold, and I look at what the movie is about, it makes me upset because I'm like, millions and millions of dollars and so much effort has been put to make this movie.
And talented people.
And it is doing nothing good for the world. You know what I mean? It's just there. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
And it's one thing if it's a film like, I don't know, Transformers or something where it's just stupid entertainment.
Blockbuster entertainment, sure.
Yeah, it's just mind-numbing stuff.
Yeah.
But then you have films that are really very they're evil in a way.
I think they bring a lot of dark energy in the world.
Yeah, they do. And it becomes acceptable.
Yeah.
Everything because people watch movies and they interpret it as real life, and I'll tell people, hey, trust me, movies are not real life.
Yeah.
And I always use the analogy of a restaurant scene. How many times do you go into a restaurant and have your meal in 3 pages of dialogue?
Yeah.
And yet 3 pages of dialogue is a pretty good size scene.
That's a great size scene.
In a film, and it lasts about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And we never stop to think about that. Whereas really we've taken an hour and a half of eating this meal and we've condensed it down to 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And you're buying that.
Yeah.
Okay. And what we do is we take that much of life. We take years of life and we squeeze it down into an hour and a half, which is fine. But what sections of that life are you going to play on?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes we play on the really negative, evil, debilitating, dark sides of life.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it can be done tastefully. I've seen some films that I thought that was really intriguing to me. It was interesting how they handled
those types of
certain
elements.
subjects that are difficult and stuff like that. But as a general rule, I try to stay away from them. I just don't.
I do because I feel like it kind of like hurts my spirit sometimes when I'm watching these things. And I'm like, oh man,
you feel like you have to take a shower after.
I'm just like this. Why is this even here? Why does this exist? I want to shift topics a little bit and talk a little bit about the film that you just barely directed. You wrote and directed Who We Are.
Oh, okay, right? Sure.
And because it's a really profound film. Like I remember reading the script and thinking, wow, this is a really powerful script.
Oh, thanks.
And it was interesting because it really all takes place in one location, in one cabin, right? But you deal with some topics that are pretty heavy, and especially in like the landscape that we live in, where especially as like an LDS member, sometimes we think you have to look a certain way or you have to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And in your film, you let people know like, oh, all of these characters have massive amounts of flaws, but in their flaws, they find absolute compassion and they find absolute love with each other. And they realize in that is the true essence of really the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? Is that ability to love each other despite our weaknesses and our pains and all that stuff. And anyway, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your process of why you made this movie, why you thought it was important, and all that stuff.
There's some things I can talk about and some things I probably shouldn't.
Sure.
Just because I don't want to offend people.
No problem. No problem at all.
But like I say, I did the film the best 2 years.
Yep.
And my buddy Scott Anderson and I did that, and along with Fred Daneman, our executive producer, and I was the producer on that.
Okay.
And played the mission president, and we had a blast doing that film.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I haven't always been a fan of, trying to say this carefully, of some of the LDS films.
Sure.
And some of them are my own. Midway to Heaven, The Dance, stuff like that. They're fine. I just want more, Sharon. I want more. I'm always wanting more. I want more from relationships. I want more from my life. I want more from my art. Mm-hmm. And so about 10 years ago, I thought, I want to make a movie about kids who have problems. Mm-hmm. Because we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the girl who got pregnant when she was a teenager. We don't talk about, the LDS kid who has a drug problem.
Those things are swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Right? They're kind of like, nope, those are the things that we don't want to address or make mainstream because that will put a negative light on our family anything,
I guess reflects poorly on the church or something.
Sure.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. Same-sex attraction, pornography. I think pornography is a huge blight.
Yeah.
And I think way too many people are into it. And so those are some of the issues. Then there's a couple of characters that are there for fun.
Yeah.
Alex plays Spielberg in the film, and he has some fun twists. And then Kenna, she's the recent convert.
Yep.
And she's the one who asks some tough questions, and she's the one who says, "Oh, you guys don't get it, do you? You don't get how cool this religion is. I mean, I just found it. I think it's awesome, and you guys grew up with it, and you take it for granted." I think there's a lot to that. But yeah, it was a long time in the process. Mm-hmm. And about 4 years before we shot the film, that's when I started writing the script. And the script went through so many changes. Mm-hmm. And finally boiled it down to what we've got. And I worked with a friend of mine, Michael Bailey, for a while. And he was helpful in the beginning stages. And then I thought, no, I just need to write this myself. And so I just fell in love with the characters that I was pulling out of my head. And no film is ever perfect. I look at the film now and I think, from a directing standpoint, well, I needed more coverage on that scene.
Sure.
And why was Mason making that face? Do we have another take of him?
Yeah.
We don't, so I have to use that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's good.
Yeah.
I love Mason. I love that, but I was listening for something a little different. And, it's the same thing with all the actors. Every one of them, there was always something, but in the big picture, I loved what they did.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, and I think I'm being somewhat objective, it's crystal clear in my mind.
Yeah.
My objectivity might be a little bit skewed, but I've seen all the LDS films, and for my money, and we had a great cast in Best 2 Years, but for my money, the cast in Who We Are is the best cast that's ever been assembled. And I'm not saying that's anything that I've accomplished. I'm saying those are the best actors ensemble in an LDS film. Yeah. There's not a weak, in my opinion, there's not a weak character in the film. Yeah. And if there is any weakness, it's me as a director or me as a writer, not them as an actor. Yeah. And what a blast to work with them.
Well, we were mentioning this earlier, like I'm friends with at least I think 3 of your cast members already. And I've worked with them all individually in different projects, and they're just wonderful people. Yeah, they are. Wonderful, wonderful people. Yeah. So you assembled a great cast, and it was awesome. And I think the movie, has it been properly released already?
It's on Amazon Prime right now.
Yeah.
Under a different title called Faith, Hope, Love.
Faith, Hope, Love, yeah.
But where I'm hoping, as theaters are now opening up,
sure, that
we'll be able to release it probably this summer.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's not like a typical movie like some sort of action adventure movie or anything like that. But it's a very needed movie.
Hope so.
I think it's actually going to be very therapeutic for people to watch it.
Hope so. I mean, we've had great feedback on it. It's an ensemble film.
Sure.
And the structure of an ensemble film is different than another kind of. There's no antagonist, protagonist.
Yeah.
There's no, big, huge overriding conflict.
Right.
We have to save the day. We're going to die if this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
No, there's none of that. It's just 6 strangers. It's kind of cool that when they come together, they've never met each other.
Yeah.
And they spend 2 days together. And we had to get rid of the cell phones.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd have just been on their phones the whole time.
Right.
And it was a beautiful experience to shoot the film. Yeah.
How many days was that to shoot?
Shot it in 11 days.
11 days.
And
Amazing.
there were times, and you'll appreciate this as an actor, there were times we were doing 12 pages a day.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of pages.
A lot of pages. Absolutely.
And what enabled us to do that, Sharon, which is another thing that you'll understand as an actor, we rehearsed for a couple of weeks.
Oh, man, I love that.
And you never do that in film.
No.
You show up on day one, here's your script, go in there, hit your mark, say your lines, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I knew there was no way I could do that for a couple of reasons. The flow and the rhythm and the beats, I wanted to make sure that they were there as a director.
Before you started filming.
Before all of a sudden we have a crew that we're paying.
Yeah.
And so when we showed up on day one, it just flowed.
Oh, man.
And I don't think, and I'm probably wrong on this, I don't remember any actor calling for line.
Wow.
I mean,
That's
I'm sure there
impressive.
were times when we go through a scene and we cut, and maybe they check with the script supervisor or something like that, or, we say, hey, you juxtapose this, or you drop this line or something. Go,
Sure.
oh yeah. But there was never a time.
Yeah.
I don't ever recall a time in those 11 days where an actor in the middle of the scene goes, oh crap, I forgot my line.
Yeah, exactly.
That never happened.
Yeah, that's something I would have done. No, that's amazing. I mean, the thing is, you were so prepared, and that's what it all boils down to, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, as we've had the chance to kind of like take a stroll down memory lane and everything. I want to kind of shift the topic a little bit, and I want to ask you, just as a human being, as an actor, every single person faces life differently.
Sure.
Right? And everyone has like different trials and challenges that hits them at different times of their life. Has there been any particular moment, whether it was in your career or whether it's in your personal life, where you were dealt like a massive lemon? Like this is the worst. And how were you able to like switch it around and kind of come back up on top?
Well, I think I've already mentioned that I've been married more than once.
Yeah.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was married for 19 years first time. And yeah, when you go through something like that, there's a lot of introspection. What did I do wrong? Why did I do it wrong? Why was I an idiot? Why did I hurt people I love? Stuff like that. I'm fortunate now. Barbie and I have been married for 9 years, and that's just a beautiful experience. I think you've met Barbie, haven't you?
I have. I believe I have met her a couple
I think you
times.
met her at the film festival.
Yeah.
Or something. And she's just an incredibly lovely, wonderful, beautiful woman. I was telling her the other day, I said, because I had a girlfriend while I was on my mission. Her name was Kay. Great gal. But I said, honey, if when I was on my mission, if an angel had appeared to me, not that I was worthy of an angel, but if an angel had appeared to me and said, okay, here's a picture of the woman to whom you'll be married when you're 73, which I am now.
Yeah.
I would have thought, holy cow.
Yeah.
I hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
It's not Kay, which I'm fine with that because wow. And that's the way I feel.
That's awesome.
And so that's been a huge blessing in my life. She's so supportive of my crazy career. And like you say, it's up and down. Fortunately, at this point, with everything, all the different pies I have my fingers in, writing, directing, producing, my workshop, acting, the routine. We get along okay.
Yeah.
We have cars that work, and we wear clothes and eat food, and we have a dog.
Look, that's a good life. That's a really good life. Honestly,
it is a good life.
When you think about it, there's all these wonderful things. Would you say that that's the greatest source of your joy right now? Your current relationship?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. It really is all about relationships, right? And I feel like at the end of the day, if all these things that we're doing with acting and whatnot, I mean, one of the reasons I feel like you've been able to like maintain a great career as an actor is because of the relationships that you've had, you know, and you've been able to like maintain those relationships. I mean, you're still working, you know, you're still doing your thing. You're not giving up, and people are still calling you, and you're still creating stuff.
You can't give up, Sharon.
You can't give up. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, you know.
See, people ask me, because they look at me and they say, well, you're not dead yet, but you must be retired.
Yeah.
And I said, you're right. I'm not dead, and I'm not retired, and I'm never going to retire. Why'd I retire?
Why would I retire? Yeah.
I like what I'm doing.
No, that's awesome. What would you say is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear? Well, it's an easy answer. I mean, in the huge picture.
Sure.
My greatest fear would be, you know, standing in front of my Savior and not having that go well.
That would be terrifying. Yeah.
But if we take that off the table.
Yeah.
I'm a really active guy. My brain still works. My body still works. So my biggest fear would be being old enough to where I can't, I don't know how I say this, in any kind of sensitivity.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be old enough where I can't make love to my wife.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to sip life through a straw. I don't ever want to be in a hospital bed and having people bring me food.
Yeah.
Those are my biggest fears. I don't want any of that.
Well, it's great. See, the thing is like I feel like you have always, since I've known you, have always had light in your life.
Oh, that's sweet of you.
And I mean, you know, you're a positive guy. You're very kind, and there's so many actors I've talked to that have taken your course or have gone through your program before, and they all are just very grateful for you and your expertise and what you've been able to give to them and bless them with, right? But I think that's a good point. It's like the moment we can't live anymore and we can't share our gifts, then that is terrifying, you know, because it's like such a part of you, and to not be able to like let that part of you shine anymore, that's tough. That's tough.
And yet, I was telling somebody, I think it was just yesterday, the idea, so, you know, some people, your biggest fear, and they would say death. I'm not really afraid of death at all. In fact, I think death would be really interesting. But one hope I would have, I don't really want to go quickly. I don't want a semi-truck to fall on me. Yeah. In other words.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, because I've never had the experience, never had cancer. Nobody's ever looked across the table and say you have 9 months to live. Although I'm writing a screenplay right now where that takes place.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to play that character.
Okay.
And so that's kind of interesting, I think, I hope, maybe. But anyway, but as an actor, I think, you know, it would be really interesting to know that I'm going to die. And to go through that process and to just experience it on a passionate level, an emotional level, and not be afraid of it and embrace it and say, wow, this is one of those big transformations in our existence.
You know, it's interesting.
So
just yesterday, this happened to me. I have one of my biggest problems, I feel like, in life is I tend to be a workaholic. I love working. I love creating things. But I get to the point where I'm doing too much all the time, and I'm not taking enough time to like just be still, right? And lately, I've been feeling very claustrophobic, or just feeling like there's just so many things happening all at once at the same time. I've got different projects I'm kind of juggling at the moment. And so I kind of made it a point to say, you know what? I am going to take every week, I'm going to take at least one day or like a couple hours that day, and I'm going to just go somewhere where there just aren't things, you know, like there just isn't anything made by man. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
I want to get out of the cities. I want to just go to like some space.
That's nice.
And just be.
Yeah.
And so yesterday was my day to do that. And so cool. I drove past Eagle Mountain to the other side, like kind of over by Tooele area on the mountain. And it was interesting, the emotions I was going through initially, because I started feeling guilt initially, because I was like, oh my God, I need to be working right now. Am I wasting time right now doing this thing? But I had to like let that emotion pass through me, saying like, no, this is for me. This is my time to like self-love and to feel God's love for me and like to just be still with God. And as I left town and I finally got to a place where cars kind of dropped off, they went to like different places, I felt this immense peace come over me. Just so soothing and so relaxing. And as I kept going further and further, I got to this place where like the mountains just kind of opened up into like this beautiful valley. The sun was shining. And I did nothing. And I pulled off on some random small town called Mercer. I've never heard of it before.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I pulled off on this like random street, and I went up on this hill where they had like the Mercer Cemetery, you know.
Oh, interesting.
And it was just it was such a small place that they didn't have actual proper gravestones. They just put little teddy bears where people had passed away. And I walked up there, nobody was there. And it was so sacred. It was just so sacred. And I remember thinking, this is a moment I want to keep with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I just want to be here. I don't want to leave. I had trouble leaving. And I remember, kind of back to your question of like, what would it be like to know that you are going to die? How would your priorities change? And I think that my priorities would kind of be like, all right, you know what? Work and all that stuff, that's not the important thing.
Yeah.
How do I love? Am I loving people? Right. Am I being loved? Can I share that more with people? It's very interesting. We've talked to people about that have had near-death experiences where they've gone to the other side and come back, and their whole perspective changes. Yeah. And they all say the same thing. It's about loving and being loved. And like, that is the most important thing, and nothing else is really as important as we think it is. So I kind of want to wrap up right now with one final question, which is, with the great experience you've had in life, what would you go back and tell that younger self, the one that's barely getting into acting, the one that's going to take his family and go on the road and be in place? What would you tell that self?
I guess part of the answer is, what would I do differently? Because that's what I would tell him.
Sure.
I would say, okay, here's the path I took. Go ahead and take the same path, follow the same dream, same vision, but make these changes. I didn't get into film until 1980. In 1980, I was 33. Mm-hmm. And so I would tell him, if you really want to be an actor, you have to hang on to your testimony, which I did. For the most part, there have been some ups and downs. I'm in a really good place now, have been for a long time, but I haven't always been, where I should be. So hang on to that. Hang on to your relationship with our Heavenly Father and His beautiful Son, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Hang on to that. Invite the Holy Ghost into your life on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. But then train and work and focus and do the family thing intelligently. I love my kids, obviously. You always love your kids. Mm-hmm. But I think, I should have trained more earlier on. I would have been a better actor earlier on, and I think I could have carved a stronger, more varied career early on. I'm happy where I am. I really am. I like what I'm doing. I like the actor I've become. But as I look back, I think I could have gotten to this level 20 years ago. Mm. And I wasn't, because I got distracted with stuff, and I was still an actor. I was still doing stuff, Yeah. But sometimes I took it for granted.
Sure.
I took it for granted that when I went to an audition, I was going to get it. Mm-hmm. Because so many times I did, and I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. Mm-hmm. I would tell them, appreciate every step of the way. Mm. Embrace every step of the way. Be grateful, be kind. And I think I am grateful and kind, especially on set. I'm I love working with other actors. I do, even when the movie is crazy and stupid.
Yeah.
But I would tell him, be really smart about stuff, and really train and be really, really good. You see, Sharon, we talked about a dentist. My guess is 95% of dentists can make a great living.
Sure.
Because we don't know if they're good or not. You move into a new town, got a toothache, and you have your teeth checked.
Sure.
You drive by, dentist. Well, there's a dentist. Let's go there. But when you graduate as an actor, you can't put up a sign and say actor and have people come in and hire you.
Right.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And whereas let's say 95 to 98% of dentists can make a good living. Well, 95 to 98% of actors don't make any living at all.
Yeah, that is very true.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
And so I would tell them that.
Yeah.
And I would say, okay, be really sure this is what you want to do. But if it's what you want to do, grab on and don't let go, and absolutely go for it. And don't let people tell you can't do it.
Yeah.
If you have that gift inside, like we talked about earlier.
Yes.
And if you really feel like you get this, then go for it.
You got to go for it. Michael, honestly, I can't think of any better words than that, man, to wrap this up. But thank you so much for coming and sharing your words of wisdom.
I don't know about wisdom, but
no, seriously, it is great. I mean, here's the thing, that idea of saying, "Hey, I get this," and you went for it. That's powerful. It's really powerful, because so many people are too afraid to dig deep and figure out what do they really get. Right. And I think you doing that, it gives permission for other people to do the same thing.
I hope so.
So it really is awesome. So thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
It was great to see you again.
Great seeing you.
We don't see each other often.
No, not at all. Not enough. So we need to work on another project together.
I would love that.
That'd be awesome. Well, thanks again, Michael, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know. Thanks so much, and have a great day.